Hola, mis amigos. It's Tuesday, not Friday. We'll get there soon enough. So, I hope you were thinking about your podcast after we talked about it in class yesterday. I'm actually kind of anxious to see what some of you come up with because some of your initial ideas that you were throwing around yesterday seemed pretty fun. And really, what's most important to me is that you choose something that you actually care about or are interested in, because otherwise, it's not going to make for a very fun podcast if you just pick something that you don't know much about or that you don't really like, right? So, yeah, I'm super excited to see what you come up with and see if any of you surprise me with your topics because I feel like I know you pretty well. So we'll see what you come up with. All right, so today we're going to begin brainstorming and planning. You're going to choose your topics today, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. We're going to do some thinking going into it and some planning. Now, if you are going to be working with somebody else, try to get together with them today, whether you FaceTime or email or text, or if you want me to open up a Google Meet for the two of you, just shoot me an email and let me know, and I can try to make that happen. Okie doke. Alrighty. So here's what today is going to look like. So for those of you that are struggling with a topic, okay, now if you're sitting there saying, I already know what I'm going to do, I have a firm idea, okay, just bear with me for a second. But for those of you that are sitting there thinking, I don't know what to do, well, this is for you. So when we are talking about a podcast and we're brainstorming some topics, here are some things that would make for a pretty good podcast, okay? So one would be telling a story about your school or community, like something significant that happened that you would want your audience to know about. So you could think about something at school that happened that would be important for people to know, or within the community, within Wadsworth, that has happened like recently or historically that you think your audience might want to know about. Okay, so that would be one thing, like something that has happened to you, something that has happened around you that you think, yeah, I'd like to talk about that. Okay, another one, and Sam and Owen, I'm looking at you if you haven't come up with an idea yet, just because I know you two love to talk about history. What's a moment in history that everybody should learn about? Like what's a good story from history that you could tell in a podcast? That would be something you could do that would be pretty cool. Number 3, talk to us about two sides of a debate about an issue that's important to you, kind of like, an argument essay, but talking. Like, what's something that's a big problem or issue right now that you really feel strongly about? You can present your argument, and talk about what that debate's all about. So that would have to be some of you that really feel strongly about a cause or an issue in the world. Number 4, what do you want to change about the world? What's a big change you want to make in the future? Okay, so something you see that needs to be changed, what is it? And what does that look like? How do you make that change? And number 5 could be kind of funny. Explain something that kids understand, but grown-ups just don't get. I'm sure you could think of a few things for that. So if you're struggling with a topic, maybe this got you thinking about something that you could do or you could talk about in a podcast. And again, if you already have your plan, then great, awesome. We're ready to move to the next step. But today you do need to have your topic solidified in your mind so that we can move forward with the next planning phases for it. So, if you were in the boat of not knowing what you were doing, you want to take some of the ideas that are swirling around in your mind and you really need to narrow them down to one. And the way we can do that is by figuring out obstacles, like kind of predicting some obstacles that might come up as we create this podcast. And this may help you to narrow it down. Those of you that have a topic, if your topic is really broad, we might need to narrow it down a little bit, right? Because if you pick if you pick ice cream, Okay, you're going to do a whole podcast on ice cream. Awesome, right? Everybody loves some ice cream. But you're going to have to narrow it down a little bit. Like, you can't just talk forever about ice cream in general. Like, are you going to talk about how ice cream is made? Are you going to talk about best ice cream places to visit? Are you going to talk about your favorite flavors? Are you going to talk about the history of ice cream? Like, what's your narrow down? So that's what we're going to work with today, is how you narrow down your ideas to really come to a consensus of what you're going to focus on in your podcast. Okay. So we're going to plan out the story. So we're going to use this chart, and then there's a chart over here to kind of plan out what your podcast is going to be about. So what I'm going to do is kind of, oh, wow, that's the wrong way. Hello. Okay, that's good enough. I'm going to go back. Stop it. Okay. So the first one you're going to come across is this. What's my story's driving question? Now, you can look at this two ways. You can say, like, what's the driving question, or what is the focus, the thing that I want to talk about? So in here is where you're just going to type, like, okay, maybe that's your driving question. You've narrowed down, you're like, okay, with ice cream, I really want to focus on what is the best kind of ice cream and where do you go to get it? So maybe I feature like flavors and locations, or maybe I feature locations and what the best choices are at each one. See, I'm narrowing as I think. I like that. Okay. What's the story not about? So it's not going to be about history of ice cream or how you make it. I'm not going to address any of that because, quite honestly, I don't care. That sounds terrible, but I don't. I'm more excited about talking to you about going to Scoops, my new favorite little treasure ice cream place, and going to get the chocolate and peanut butter sundae boat, which is one of the most amazing things I've ever eaten. That's what I want to talk to you about. Okay. So when I'm talking about narrowing it down, this is what I'm talking about. What is it about? And what is it not about? Because that's going to help you focus in on exactly what you're going to talk about. Now I'm going to delete this because otherwise it's going to show up on your copy and you're going to be like, what in the world? Why is mine talking about ice cream? Okay. Then you're going to come to the second planning page. Okay. Let me talk to you about what this means. How will I ensure that my story is fair to the people and ideas that it represents? Well, I don't know. Mine's about ice cream. Okay. So who's my audience going to be? So I'm thinking my audience is going to be people my age. So for you, I'm trying to write this as if this were you writing this. So this is for teenagers. So I am going to only list places that are close-ish because they may not be able to drive yet. And I'm going to only list places that are affordable because, yes, we are teenagers and not millionaires, right? So something that's kind of goofy, but that's what they're talking about. Like, who's your audience and how are you going to make it relate to your audience? Plus everybody, here we go. Plus everyone loves ice cream. And if you don't, I don't know what to tell you. Okay. How am I going to engage my audience and hold them? So what I would put here, I'm going to stop typing because I can kind of talk you through this, but how will I engage my audience and hold them? So this is going to be something like by really getting them excited about these places that I visited and just really describing in detail what these were like and how amazing these choices were at each location. Now, I know I'm talking about food, so this is going to throw some of you off. what are my dream ingredients? Okay, so if you think about a podcast like a recipe, what would be the things that your podcast would need in it? Just like one of my cupcake recipes, you got to have sugar, you got to have flour. Otherwise, it's not going to rise. It's not going to taste good. Got to have some chocolate chips in there for my chocolate ones. So when we're talking about a recipe has to have certain things in it for it to be delicious and good. Well, a podcast has to have certain things in it to make it interesting. So basically, this is asking, what are some things that you really want your podcast to have? So maybe yours is, a theme song. Maybe it's a catchy title. Maybe it's interviews with people. Maybe it is I don't know. I don't know what's the magic. Like, what ingredients does your podcast need? This is not literal ingredients. I'm not looking for actual ingredients. So like, for example, if you're talking about Star Wars that has nothing to do with food, what would be your dream ingredients or dream things that your podcast would have that would make it interesting? Okay. And then the last one is this: what will the audience remember when it's over? What's their takeaway? So, what do you want them to know or believe or whatever when they are done listening to your podcast? So, like, maybe for me, it would be something like, I really hope that they'll want to go visit all of these places and try all of these things. So, for me, that would be my takeaway. That's what I would want my audience to do. Okay. Maybe if yours is about anime, maybe you want your audience to learn about some new shows they can watch and maybe turn them onto something new that they have never tried before, like watching anime. Um, I don't know. What's your takeaway? What do you hope your audience does, feels, whatever, once your podcast is over? Okay. So that's what you're going to fill out today for your planning. You're going to plan this and you're going to plan this to kind of really, it is important to do this step, because otherwise you're going to start talking in a podcast and you're going to realize, like, oh shoot, I don't know what direction to go. This is going to help you narrow that direction. Okay. Then just a little recap here. Okay. This is from NPR. This is a course you can actually take on podcasting to learn how to be a good podcaster. These are some of their tips. Like we talked about, what's your story's driving question? What's it not about? How will I ensure the story is fair? What will the audience remember when it's over? What are my dream ingredients? And how will I engage my audience and keep them coming back for more? So as long as you have these things kind of planned out in your mind, your podcast is going to fall together very easily. Okay. So again, if you're working with a partner, you guys could do this together. Now, you'll both need to turn in this assignment. Otherwise, it's going to show up missing. But really, if you're working on it with someone, you guys could almost just copy paste from each other, or at least like copy the same words. And that's fine because you're working together on it. But if you're working by yourself, then you're going to need to think through this a little bit about what direction you want to go with your podcast and your topic. So the goals for today: number 1, choose your topic. Number 2, plan it out using that chart, those charts. And that's it for today. So tomorrow, then, we will start to really pull it together. Some of you might be ready to record. Some of you might need to think a little more about what it's going to look like. Some of you might be going really crazy and developing a theme song or a logo or something like that. I'm not going to tell you have to do that, but some of you are already excited about that. So sure, go ahead. If you want to put music in yours, put music in there. If you want to create a title with a logo or something, have at it. That's awesome. You don't have to, but feel free. Okie doke. If you have any questions, come see me in office hours. I will be happy to walk you through it. But again, today, topic and planning. And that's it. Have a good one and have fun with this. See ya.